Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Christ under the Order of Divine Mysticism. I'm so excited to give my first official sermon with you guys today. We're going to be talking today about feeling like God has forgotten about you or doesn't listen to you, doesn't answer your prayers, and how to sort of deal with those feelings. So kind of a heavy subject matter. So first, kind of going into how my sermons are sort of going to be formatted, I want to start each sermon with a little meditation, which might scare some people. Maybe you've never meditated before. Maybe you think you're not good at meditation. It's going to be just 1 minute. 1 minute. You can do it. I'm going to sort of walk you through a pre-meditation exercise, and I'm going to be there with you during the actual meditation, and then sort of walk you out of the meditation and back to quote-unquote reality. And the reason why I want to do this is because I feel like it helps us connect to spirit better, but also it's good to be grounded, I feel, when we're going into these potentially heavy subject matters. So I have already invited God the Father, God the Mother, God the Essence into my space, and they are going to be with us through this meditation and through the sermon as a whole. So let's get established with spirit, with the divine, and get grounded and ready for the sermon. So I am actually sitting down right now. I'm sitting on my floor, but you do whatever you can with wherever you are. Unless you're driving. Don't do this if you're driving. But if you're sitting on your couch, sitting on your bed, or even if you're standing, you can do this with your feet planted firmly on the ground. I'm going to be discussing it through sitting on the floor because that's what I'm doing, but you do whatever you can. So, to the best of your ability, follow me. On earth, as it is in heaven, as above, so below. Place your fingertips on the ground. And we're going to start with just taking a big deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Ready? Let's do 2 more. Good. Now you can close your eyes if you want or keep them open, whatever you're comfortable with. But with your fingertips on the floor, I want you to imagine tree roots extending from your fingertips through the floor, through whatever basement or apartments below you might have, through the foundation and deeper into the earth. Because when we connect with the earth, we connect with God, we connect with spirit. And I want you to imagine energy from the earth, the energy that God has given us through her, coming up through those tree roots, higher and higher and higher, until that energy reaches your fingertips, your hands, up your arms and shoulders, through your neck and face, your back, your stomach, your pelvis, your legs, your feet. And let's just stay like this for a moment, imagining that energy flowing through you for 1 minute, starting now. And if your mind drifts away, that's okay. Just bring it back. As you're imagining this energy flowing through you, what does it feel like? Is it warm? Is it tingly? What color is it? Does it make a sound? Just breathe and focus on that flow of energy through your entire body. and maybe contemplate a bit. Have you ever felt forgotten by God? Does connecting with the divine in this way, even for a short moment, help you feel more connected? Just a few more seconds and then I'm going to walk you out. So don't just shoot upright. All right, now I want you to imagine you have all the energy that you need, and anything left over flows back out through your fingertips, back down through those tree roots and back into the earth. And the roots slowly make their way back up through the earth, back up through your foundation, your floor, back up to your fingers. And if you had your eyes closed, slowly open them. Welcome back. Now that we're a little bit more grounded, centered, ready to go, let's discuss the stories, the main story of today, which is in 1 Samuel, the story of Hannah. Yes, there is a character in the Bible named Hannah, and this story is very special to me, not just because we share a name, but that is certainly part of it. It's one of my favorite stories in the Bible, and I have a very deep personal connection to this story for several reasons, not just because we have the same name, which I'll go into as well. But first, let's just tell the story. So, once upon a time, looking at my Jewish study Bible here, once upon a time, long time ago, there was a man named Elkanah. And Elkanah had 2 wives, Peninnah and Hannah, but Hannah was his favorite. Peninnah was able to have children, but Hannah was not. This version of my Bible says that the Lord closed her womb, so she was barren, she was infertile, or so they thought. And this caused her great distress, not just because of the status quo of the times where it was important to have children, but also because, like any maternal urge someone might have, she just wanted to have a baby, and she was very distraught over this, to the point where she would go to the temples to pray, and she would cry, and her husband Elkanah would say, "Hannah, why are you crying, and why aren't you eating? Why are you so sad? Am I not more devoted to you than 10 sons?" That was chapter 1, verse 8. Elkanah was trying his best. He could see that Hannah was very distraught, but that was not enough for her to feel fulfilled. She wanted a baby so desperately. And so one day, she was praying once again for a baby. Verse 11, "And she made this vow, O Lord of hosts, if you will look upon the sufferings of your maidservant and will remember me, and not forget your maidservant, and if you will grant your maidservant a male child, I will dedicate him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor shall ever touch his head." That was a custom of the culture of the time to not cut their hair. Later on, Elkanah knew his wife Hannah, meaning they conceived, and the Lord remembered her. Hannah conceived, and at the turn of the year bore a son. She named him Samuel, meaning, "I asked the Lord for him." This was starting at verse 19, now we're on 21. "And when the man Elkanah and all his household were going up to offer the Lord the annual sacrifice and his votive sacrifice, Hannah did not go up. She said to her husband, 'When the child is weaned, I will bring him. For when he has appeared before the Lord, he must remain there for good,' because that was what she promised God. Her husband Elkanah said to her, 'Do what you think is best. Stay home until you have weaned him. May the Lord fulfill his word.' So the woman stayed home and nursed her son until she weaned him. When she weaned him, she took him up with her, along with 3 bowls, 1 container of flour, and a jar of wine. And though the boy was still very young, she brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh. After slaughtering the bull, they brought the boy to Eli, who was one of the priests. And Hannah said, "Praise my Lord. As you live, my Lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you and prayed to the Lord. It was this boy I prayed for, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. I, in turn, hereby lend him to the Lord. For as long as he lives, he is lent to the Lord." And they bowed low before the Lord. Now, I did some research before giving this sermon and just wanted to clarify that Hannah was still able to see Samuel. She would have been able to visit him at the temple, because I remember hearing this story for the first time and thinking that it didn't make much sense that she prayed and prayed for this baby and then didn't even get to have him. But then upon further research found that she did still get to be his mother, but then also fulfilled her promise to God, which is of particular importance, but we'll get to that in a moment. I want to share my personal story with this as well. I was either in high school or college, and I can't remember if I was beginning to question my beliefs at the time or where I was in my spirituality, and I really can't even remember if I was feeling forgotten at the time, but this was a very significant moment for me nonetheless. So I was still in the church, and every week I would bring my Bible with me to church, and I would write in the margins, and I would underline and all of those things. And one week I lost my Bible, couldn't find it anywhere. I looked under my bed, in my car, backpacks, my closet. I looked at my church to see if I had left it there, couldn't find it anywhere for several weeks. And one day I'm home alone, and I don't even think I was thinking about Christianity or my Bible or anything at the time. I think I was just watching YouTube videos or something, and I so distinctly remember getting this vibe of, get up and look for your Bible. I'm going to help you find it. And I said, okay. So I got up, and again, just very distinctly got this vibe of, look under your bed. I'm thinking to myself, well, I already looked under my bed, but okay. I get down, I look under my bed, and sure enough, it's right there. And I had looked under my bed, and I mean, it was right there. And I'm thinking, all right, that's a little spooky, but thanks. So I grab my Bible, I get back up, I sit on my bed, and I just flipped my Bible open to a random page. And it wasn't this Bible, it was a different one, but I flipped it to a random page. And wouldn't you know, it was the story of Hannah. Specifically, the part where the Lord was reminding her that he had not forgotten about her. So that also was a little spooky, not gonna lie, that I just flipped to a random page, and I happened to flip to the character with my name, and her seeing that God had not forgotten about her. I have experienced so many crazy divine things in my time as a witch, but to this day, that was still one of the craziest. And I was just like, okay, thank you. But I know what some of you might be thinking. Okay, great. You've told this story about a woman who felt forgotten, and she wasn't. But maybe you're thinking, but I still feel like I've been forgotten. My prayers weren't answered. I prayed to the Christian God, all my life, and my prayers were never heard. But then I started praying to Hecate, and suddenly my prayers were being answered. And you know what? That's amazing. If you are someone who prays, you deserve to feel like you are being heard, no matter who it's from. But it still probably hurts to hear of other people feeling like they're being heard and seen by God, but for whatever reason, you're not. Why is that? Well, there's a couple of explanations. we're going to kind of get into some UPG territory here, which if you're not familiar, UPG stands for Unverified Personal Gnosis, which is things that you experience within your own practice that maybe aren't canon or explicitly written down in the mythology. And I'm sure there'll be moments where we'll do, entire sermons on this particular topic, but just to keep it kind of short and sweet, the other matriarchs and myself believe in a concept called the evangelical egregore. And maybe you didn't grow up evangelical, so we'll just call it the Christian egregore. What is an egregore? In short, it's an imaginary friend on steroids. Imagine you and a group of friends get together and you decide that you're going to make up your own God, just out of thin air. You're going to make it up. But you start worshiping it and working with it, giving offerings to it, praising it, performing spells with it, as if it were real. And then because you and other people are emitting so much energy towards this thing, it then becomes real. So if you've ever wondered why so many Christians seem to be going so far against what God and Christ were actually about, what they're worshiping is not God. Millions, if not billions of people are putting their energy out, but in the wrong direction. But because there's so many of them and so much of that energy, that wrong direction has become real. So maybe there's a chance that that's where your prayers were going. But wouldn't God know that you meant to be praying to him? Wouldn't he just filter it out anyway? Well, that leads to sort of my main primary point. That was almost more of a secondary point, but my primary point is that maybe God, forgetting about you, led you to where you are supposed to be now. Let me explain. Hannah gave birth to Samuel, and Samuel ended up being an incredibly significant biblical figure. There are 2 books of Samuel. There's 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel. So he was majorly important. He was this incredible prophet. He anointed King Saul and then King David, as in the King David. He was very significant. But in order to get to that point, Hannah had to conceive at just the right time to get Samuel specifically. But also, she had to get to a point in her desperation when she was willing to give Samuel up to the temple. If she had had babies at any given moment in any given time, then great, but we wouldn't have this extremely important person that Samuel was. She had to be willing to give him to the temple, and she had to give birth to him specifically. God forgot about Hannah for a reason, but in actuality, he didn't really forget her. Moving to Jesus, in the Garden of Gethsemane, right before Jesus was about to be arrested, he goes out to pray, and he knows that he's about to be crucified, and he's crying, he's scared, he's depressed, and he prays to God, if there is any way that this burden could be lifted from me, that if there's any way that we don't have to do this, please. If there's any other way, please let it be so. But your will be done, not mine. And God didn't answer that prayer. We know what happened to Jesus. Jesus was crucified. God forgot his own son for a reason. Now, there's a couple different sources suggesting what Jesus' last words were before he died on the cross. Some say it's, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And others say it was, my God, my Father, why have you forsaken me? So let's utilize that for the sake of our topic today. Jesus felt forgotten by God. Just take a moment to absorb that. The Son of God felt forgotten. Why have you forsaken me? But the thing is, God doesn't like to do that. Because when Jesus died, it is said that God was so distraught that he turned his back on the earth. And God knew that Jesus was going to come back. We could do a whole other sermon on the Christian witch significance of the crucifixion and the resurrection. But just for now, God, it is said that the world plunged into darkness and storms and earthquakes because God was devastated that this happened to his son. It was for a reason. Doesn't mean that God had to like it. Doesn't mean that Jesus had to like it. Clearly he didn't. But then he resurrected. There was a purpose. So I'm going to go out on the limb and say that if you have ever felt forgotten, maybe you were meant to be led to Hecate or Inanna or Odin or whomever you might find yourself with now. And maybe you are on the Christian witch, Christo-pagan, mystic spectrum, right? But if I had to guess, most, if not all of us, were probably led here through a source of trauma. Maybe not. Maybe you were raised by woo-woo folks and had a perfectly good upbringing and relationship with God your whole life. And if that's the case, then great. And a lot of us are probably a little jealous of you. I do agree that to a certain extent, the idea of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is kind of cheesy. But I trust that God knows what he's doing, even when it's hard. God didn't forget about you. God was leading you to where you needed to be. And unfortunately for most people, leaving the church is going to be traumatizing because a lot of people who are in the church suck. And that's why we're doing this. But God forgot Hannah for a reason. Hannah got Samuel. Jesus resurrected. Job got everything that he lost and more. Like, there are so many examples of this sort of thing happening in the Bible. And hey, even in knowing this, you're still allowed to be upset. Jesus was upset at God. Can we please not do this? And then it happened, and he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? He was mad. He was sad. He was in pain. Jesus was upset. So you can be too. Even if you've known for a long time, or you know now that, like, okay, maybe God didn't forget about me, you can still be upset at that feeling or what had to happen for you to get to where you are now. That's totally valid. And, in knowing this, if God is not a part of your practice, this doesn't mean that you have to invite him back into your life if that's not what you want. But if you do decide to, maybe read the story of Hannah. I didn't talk about Job today because I feel like everyone talks about Job, but read the book of Job. Read the passage of Jesus praying in Gethsemane. And just know that there are people in the Bible who have been through what you've been through, who have felt what you've felt. Jesus has felt what you have felt. God did not forget about you. Jesus did not forget about you. Hannah got Samuel. Jesus got resurrected. What did you get? You had to have gotten something. Did you get an amazing witchcraft practice or a beautiful relationship with another deity? I am not the type to say that everything happens for a reason necessarily, but I can tell you that if you feel that God forgot about you, it was for a reason. So now we're going to do a tarot reading with God, big G God. Sometimes we might do someone else in the Christian pantheon, depending on who we're talking about that day. I know we talked about Jesus a little bit, but since we're primarily talking about God here, and he's who we've invited into our space, at least I have, that's who we're going to hear from today. Now, I've mentioned this before, but with God, I like to use the Wild Unknown Tarot by Kim Kranz. And God's a little finicky with the cards, but let's just see what he has to say to people who feel like he has forgotten about them. God the Father, God the Mother, God the Essence. What messages do you have for us today? All right, we're going to do 3 cards today. Our first card is, in this deck, it's Daughter of Cups, but in a traditional tarot, that would be Page of Cups. Next, we have Page of Pentacles. That's interesting. And finally, Four of Swords. So I will show all of these to you, but I like to look in the guidebook. I've said this before, but I feel like deities choose specific cards for specific reasons, or I should say specific decks for specific reasons for the interpretations or the artwork. So we're going to take a look at the meanings of these cards. So Page of Cups looks like this. Cute little duck in a pond. Daughter of Cups with this deck, and it says, creative energy abounds from the Daughter of Cups. She is romantic, artistic, and easily inspired by her surroundings. A true dreamer by nature, she struggles to stay grounded or to deal with any harsh realities that come her way. Conflict of any kind is very disturbing to this gentle creature. Now, this can apply to anyone regardless of gender. It's funny that we mentioned staying grounded when that's exactly why I wanted to do a meditation at the beginning. I'm going to guess that a lot of people here are probably also creative and romantic and unique, artistic, but that we've also had to face some hard realities. This also reminds me a lot of Hannah in the Bible and of myself. Let's see what Page of Pentacles or Daughter of Pentacles has to say. Sort of continue to put the puzzle pieces together. This is what she looks like. You'll usually find the Daughter of Pentacles behind the scenes rather than out in the spotlight. Though quite shy, she's extremely hardworking and responsible. She handles details and logistics well. People depend on her. She has vast amounts of inner strength. Like all of the Pentacles family, the daughter thrives when in nature. Anytime I get a nature-related card, I always feel like it's God telling me to go touch grass. So maybe that resonates with you. In terms of being hard work and responsible, maybe there's that feeling of You know, for example, I was a worship leader in the church, and I volunteered and I made food for the potlucks and went to all the events, and I figured like I put in the work. I did all of those things, and I'm still not sure of my beliefs. I'm still not sure of my connection. What gives, God? It may not have necessarily been at that time that I found my Bible under my bed, like in that story, but I definitely did go through a period of time where I was like, what gives? I put in the work. I did everything I was supposed to do. And yet, this conflict. And finally, we have Four of Swords, which is a card that I really like. And wouldn't you know, we have a lamb. Though threatening swords loom above, the lamb sits in stillness without fear. The Four of Swords says it's time to look inward and find the mental power to cope with the pressures. It's important to rest, seek meditation, or find literature that focuses on ways to quiet the mind. Take this time to recuperate and move inward before those swords strike. Isn't it funny that we did a meditation right before? I want to do those meditations at the beginning of every sermon, but still, that's interesting. Take your time to cope with any feelings that today's sermon may have brought up. But don't forget to rest. Don't forget to give yourself a break, especially if those feelings are those swords looming above your head. Do what you can to stay grounded. I kind of said this in the welcome video, but I just interpret this as God saying, hey, I see you. I know that you're feeling this way. I know that this has been hard. But don't be too hard on yourself either. You know, you didn't do anything wrong. I remember having those thoughts too. Did I do something wrong to make myself have these doubts or to feel like this with my connection with God? No. No, that's not it at all. God didn't forget about you. And like I said, that doesn't mean that you have to start working with him again if that's not your path. But if you would like to, we are here to help you with that. It's definitely something that we can discuss in the coffee hour after this sermon, if you would like. But I want to close this out with a prayer, which I'm not very good at, but will probably improve with time. Some of our matriarchs might prefer to do like the written prayers, which I might do from time to time, but I was raised evangelical. We do it on the fly in this house. So, if you're watching this and you don't wish to accept this prayer, you do not have to. God the Father, God the Mother, God the Essence. To anyone who will accept this prayer, I ask that you bring them peace, grounding, and stability as they take their time in processing their feelings about being forgotten. About wondering, was it their fault? Was it your fault, God? Healing takes time. We all know that. You know that. But if this is the first step for someone, may it result in a domino effect that will keep going and going and going, and allow that person to achieve as much peace and comfort as they possibly can, feeling you and knowing you in whatever way they are comfortable. Amen. So thank you all for being here with me today. I know we read the story today, but I would still definitely encourage you to also read the story of Hannah. It's very short, or at least the primary story of her. It's just the first chapter of 1 Samuel. Maybe journal, how that story makes you feel, and if you relate to it all, and if you relate to what Jesus experienced in feeling forgotten. If you work with Jesus, maybe have a chat with him. Like, hey, you've been through this. What do you got for me? So now we're going to be going to coffee hour in the Discord server. If you're new here, our coffee hour is basically when we gather around to discuss the sermon, ask questions, clarify things, and just sort of continue the conversation, but with other members in our community. So if you're not a part of the Discord server, please come and join us. You don't have to be a Christian witch or Christo-pagan to join. Anyone is welcome, just like anyone is welcome to watch these sermons. I'm sure everything will be linked in the description, linked on the website as well. I hope this resonated with you. I hope it made you feel seen. I hope it made you feel heard and less alone. And if anyone else watching this has felt this way, let's talk about it in coffee hour. Let's talk about more stories in the Bible where people have experienced this. But I hope the story of Hannah resonates with you as much as it resonated with me. And I'm excited to continue talking about it, continue the conversation. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next time, and blessed be. Bye.